Welcome everyone to today's event, Relational Depth, a Critic's Perspective, interview with Sue Wilders. Thank you for being with us tonight, Sue.
Hi, John.
And I've
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'm getting embarrassed because I've instantly got your name wrong, haven't I? It's Sue Wilders.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Sorry about that, Sue. It's lovely to have you with us tonight, and welcome to everyone who's joining us online from all over the world. We've got some people saying hello in the chat room, so that's nice. First of all, start by asking, where are you located geographically, Sue?
Geographically in London, in the UK, which is quite a hot day here, 28 degrees. And I think I was joking before that I am in the hot seat in more ways than one.
Yes, absolutely, in more ways than one, yeah. So the online events team are up in Scotland, and it's much cooler where we are, but it sounds like you've got a really sweltering day in London.
We've got a hot one.
So thank you for being in front of the screen and all the heat that comes from the computer and spending some time with us. Maybe I could ask you next, Sue, to say a little bit about your professional journey. What has taken you to this point?
Well, I started working with drug and alcohol users and got to a certain point in that work when I thought it would be useful to gain some more skills or expertise, and I started to study counselling and became involved with the person-centred approach to counselling because that fitted who I was and who I am, and that probably took me down a route of real interest in that kind of way of relating to people, which I found was very helpful with that client group. So
that's really interesting, because it's a client group that's often, it's seen, there's got to be very definite interventions, but it sounds like you've found another approach.
It's funny because all the talk nowadays is of evidence basis and how certain types of approaches work better than other types, and I have to say I have a very sceptical mind to what is considered an evidence base and how that evidence is collected. And certainly in my experience, there's no better way to work with drug and alcohol users and other dispossessed people than by offering them unconditional positive regard and an empathic way of being with them. So it was more that my experience told me that was true rather than that I followed the theory. The theory followed what seemed to be evident to me.
Yeah, like your actual experience in the relationship with people was telling you what was working.
Exactly that, yes. Yeah.
So I've kind of interrupted you. You've kind of told us what's got you into the training. So what happened after that?
Oh, many different journeys. I mean, I currently work with people with tuberculosis, and that work brings me into contact with a wider group of people than just the drug and alcohol clients that I worked with before, although it includes them as well. But it's been an eye-opener for me doing this work in terms of the difficulties and struggles that some people have to encounter in life. But that's my work journey, and I also see private clients as well. So.
Private practice as well.
That's right. That's right. So yes.
And the context for working with people with tuberculosis, is that in a kind of clinical setting, like a hospital? Or?
Well, I manage all the social care work in 5 different hospitals, and what that really means in practice is that we work with very many dispossessed people with no rights to be in the country, no rights to claim any kind of benefits, people who are drug or alcohol users again, or with mental health problems, or homeless people, and so on. And so it's a nice way. It's a nice way to have contact with people without all the paperwork that you'd find in some other context that you'd have to work with the same clients in. So
that makes sense. Yeah, that you can really offer that kind of open space to clients.
That's right. That's right.
Quite vulnerable, I guess. And
it's interesting as well because the work that we do with them isn't the treatment. The treatment is the physical treatment for tuberculosis, which frees us up to just be with the people and also to see what their needs are and see if we can help them to access what they need.
That sounds really exciting, to not be constrained by those kind of clinical constraints, if you like.
I think in these times it's a very freeing place to be working in, believe it or not. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds really interesting. So, I could feel I'd love to ask you much more about that, but I guess we've got a different agenda for today.
Yes.
So, I guess the first time I kind of met you in a sense was through your writing, when I read your article in the Person-Centred Quarterly, where I guess you wrote a critique of the relational depth concept. Very interesting article. Can you give us a sense of kind of what was behind the article? What kind of got your passion up for writing something like that?
Yes. Well, I have to say, I'm not an academic, and that's not the way that I approach therapeutic work. However, I happened to find myself on a committee in the British Association for the Person-Centred Approach, where we were developing a lobby pack for the United Kingdom, and we ended up having quite some discussion about whether relational depth would be described as a development of the approach within the lobby pack. And to me it clearly wasn't, and that's what led to me actually sitting down and spending some time and writing a critique of the approach of relational depth, because to me it can be described as many things, but as a development of the person-centred approach, that wouldn't fit at all in my understanding of the approach or of relational depth. So that's what led to the article.
Wow. So I guess you were doing some thinking and reading and thinking about whether relational depth would fit within that piece of work, and you had quite a reaction to it.
And had to challenge myself to some extent, because relational depth was really gaining a lot of support within the person-centred community, and I had to question myself why, to me, this was outside of the person-centred approach, when so many people within the approach were so carried away by it and so enthralled by it. So it was useful for me to sit down and really put that into some theoretical understanding of both approaches, relational depth and the person-centred approach.
Well, I can really notice you separating out those two things.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I noticed you saying that it was, there's been a lot of enthusiasm about relational depth within the person-centred approach. So it has, the book that Mick Cooper and Dave Mearns have written has received a lot of excitement too.
Yes.
So, you've challenged yourself to look at that and think about where you are. Could you say a little bit then about why you feel it's separate, why you feel it's apart from the person-centred approach?
Yes. I think it's probably worth starting by trying to say what I think relational depth is trying to tell us, or what it's trying to describe itself as, because I don't think that even that is a very clear-cut or easy question to answer, because on the one hand, relational depth can be no more or less than a description of something that can occur within therapy. And as I think Mick Cooper said in his interview last week, it can be applicable to all different types of therapy approaches, not just the person-centred approach. And as a description of something that can happen naturally and spontaneously within a therapeutic relationship, including the person-centred approach, I don't have a problem with that. It's not that enlightening for me, but it's not something I have any issue with. It's a description. The part of relational depth and the work that's come out about relational depth that I do take issue with is that in calling itself a development of the person-centred approach, which it has done at times, I think